Welcome to the William and Mary Entrepreneurial Thinkers podcast, where we dive into the mindsets, skills, and stories behind creative action and bold ideas. Whether you're building a business, launching a project, or just exploring what it means to think like an entrepreneur, you're in the right place. And real quick, make sure you check in using the link in the show notes. It takes just a few seconds and earns you points that you can use for snacks, swag, and perks here at the Hub. It also helps us in creating and tailoring content that actually matters to you. So, hit pause if you need to, check in, and now let's jump into today's episode. Welcome back to the William and Mary Entrepreneurial Thinkers podcast, where we explore the mindsets and habits that drive creativity, resilience, and bold action. I'm your host, Brandon Hennessey, and today we're going to be talking about the powerful concept of tolerance for ambiguity and how it intersects with the entrepreneurial journey. When the future is uncertain and the path ahead is really unclear, this skill helps navigate, adjust, and act with intention in every way. Joining me today, sitting across, is someone who knows that experience firsthand. We've got Mike McMahon, a U.S. Air Force veteran, founder and CEO of NGZ AI, a venture using artificial intelligence to improve healthcare for veterans. From building SDV solutions into trusted federal IT provider to pivoting into AI for mental health, Mike has led through ambiguity again and again. So, Mike, have I done that justice?
You have, Brandon.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Awesome. Welcome to the show. I want our viewers and our audience to have an understanding of like how you got to this point. So like your career has taken some interesting and bold turns from military to finance, and now a combination of entrepreneurship and AI. When you look back, where did you start building your tolerance for ambiguity?
Oh, that's a very simple answer. It's actually the U.S. Air Force helped
Okay.
significantly. You know, I joined the Air Force less than 3 weeks out of high school. So I grew up in California, joined the Air Force. That's back in 1989. And talk about ambiguity. You know, I wanted structure. I liked the military. I wanted to get into the military. Ended up into F-15 avionics. And that's what brought me out to Langley Air Force Base here in Virginia. And I'll never forget, it was right before the first Gulf War, when they deployed the two fighter wings. I was part of that package that went with that. And I looked down and in my orders that I had, and there was just numbers.
Oh gosh.
I had no idea. Nobody knew where we were going.
Right.
So we had to have trust that someone obviously knew where we were going. So that was very ambiguous that we went into a foreign country, into a war, and I had no idea where it was going.
Oh my gosh. So how did you deal with that? Like, did you just like lean into the trust?
You just lean into the trust. The leaders knew obviously where we were going,
right,
and what was going to happen. And that event actually was helped to form the basis of this ambiguity and acceptance of ambiguity that later turns into entrepreneurship, and it turns into what was the genesis of my first company.
Okay.
SDV Solutions. So
yeah, talk a little bit more about SDV Solutions.
What ended up happening is the Air Force, loved the Air Force, was actually getting commissioning into the Air Force from enlisted commissioning. Started my finance degree down at Old Dominion. But back in 1993, there was a forced reduction. I was actually medically retired at the age of 22, which was really a blow to the ego, a blow to the personality of what I thought my life was going to be. So I had a career set of the Air Force, loved the Air Force, loved the military. So what ended up happening in 93 when I got medically retired, all of a sudden, who was I?
Mm-hmm.
What was I to do? You know, and that was really challenging. I ended up going to banking with my finance degree, which I ended up finishing at Old Dominion. But then what I found in 12 years in corporate banking at that time was that the thirst for ambiguity and entrepreneurship was always there. The purpose was there. So within banking, the rules are very structured.
Yes. High regulatory environment with banking. Yeah.
And there's no room to pivot.
Yeah, there's no room. Yeah.
And so I found very stifled in creativity, you know, because there is no creativity. You just you just do what you're told, and
operate within constraints.
Correct.
Right.
So about after 12 years of in the banking environment, I called up my wife one day, and we had been talking about this idea of me starting a business. I said, I'm quitting. I'm going to start a business. And of course, she has our two youngest, one on one hip and one on the other. She's like,
how old were your kids at the time?
I would say 2 and 3.
Wow.
The youngest. Yeah.
Okay.
And I was making some pretty good money at a large national bank. And so to step away from that security, and I was doing really good in the job, I just didn't, it wasn't filling a purpose. It wasn't doing anything. So where I pivoted, that was a pivot inflection point in my life too, just like 93, the Air Force and medically being retired. I sat down and I said, well, what do I want to do? What first of all, is my passion and purpose. I kind of went around that, and my passion is loved IT. I love technology. I've always been a technologist, loved the hardware aspect of it. From early growing up with a Commodore 64 computer, kind of probably dating myself.
That's great. That's fun.
But stepping away from corporate world to start something with a young family is fairly scary. And it wasn't like I was independently wealthy with all this money in the bank and like, oh, I could do whatever I want. I didn't come from money. There was no family money. It was just money we saved up. And luckily I have a really good partner in my wife, Erin, and she was able to balance that approach and said, okay, I trust in you and trust in this vision. Well, what is the vision? What do you want to do? And I coalesced around the idea of IT, federal government. That was the kind of long-term objective. I'm going to do something in IT, something around hardware, like the physical IT as opposed to software at the time. And I spent the next 6 months to a year just doing research, just kind of gathering information. And this is about the time shortly after the second Bush president signed a law, the Service Disabled Vet Small Business Act, which allowed a 3% set aside.
Yeah.
So that kind of gave me the opening target of we're going to
let me get this certification.
So I was a service disabled vet from my military retirement in 93. And I said, I'm going to go down this path of IT in the federal government. And so that was the genesis of SDV Solutions. And everybody's asked, what was SDV stand for? And it was the Service Disabled Vet Solutions. One of the earliest things I focused on in starting the business was making sure that I had kind of some broader defined things. So I knew IT hardware, I knew federal government. And what that did is that helped define the outer parameters of that business, which meant, I'm not going to try to do everything IT. I'm not going to try to do state and local. I'm not going to try to do commercial IT. We're just going to do federal government IT hardware. That was the outer bounds of that. And now within there's a lot of ambiguity of what does that mean?
Right.
How do we navigate? How do we start up a business from scratch? And we're literally, this is not buying a franchise. This is literally having a blank piece of paper and going, okay, I got a young family I need to support, and I got purpose and a mission I want to go after. And you started doing that.
Yeah, I know. It's like I appreciate the analogy of a blank page, but not filling it margin to margin, right? With all of these opportunities, because, and you and I chatted before we came into the room about you want to be focused and have the focus. Well, if you don't set the parameters at the onset of, hey, these are the things, then you're just going to be overwhelmed. Correct. And you're going to be hit with analysis paralysis, or you're not going to have the sense of agency or resources in order to make good on your passion and your purpose.
Correct. Yeah. So I had the what I call the four corners of the pages set up.
Yeah.
And I jumped right into it and I said, okay, we're going to develop the business plan around these four corners and move into this space where there's already players, there's already bigger companies, there's already the government is obviously already functioning with how Mike and his SDV Solutions IT services. So how do we make how do we create the business? How do we, create demand? How do we fix problems? Is what we looked at.
That's fascinating. In those early years, um, are there like hallmarks of like moments that your military career service or SDV solutions are like such at the forefront now as you're creating NGZ AI, where they're like, oh, I know this to be true. It's not ambiguous. I'm going to make sure that I am very certain about this now as we go through the venture.
Yeah. So, you know, uh, the value of hindsight and experience is real. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm able to, with this new venture, starting off with the same concept of a blank piece of paper, the blank piece of paper in the four corners, say military health AI solutions. So anything that has to do with military health or veteran health and AI solutions, those are the four corners. Again, knowing that there is already players in the space, it's crowded, everybody does AI health now nowadays. So how do we differentiate ourselves? How do we go into this space? It's very ambiguous. So leveraging the 23 years of running SDV solutions to successful exit last year, I'm taking all of that experience, and even in a changing political environment, I'm not afraid of the ambiguous of federal government contracting, because I know how to leverage that experience to bring value to the veterans or the soldiers, the solutions that we're going to create.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah, so the environment may have changed, but the needs or the problems of the individuals that you're looking to serve are still there.
correct.
Right. Okay. That makes a lot of sense.
So having purpose is important in my playbook. A lot of people, you read or hear or see that they, just create a company because they want to create a company. They want to, make the millions. They want to be the next Mark Zuckerberg or Bill Gates or whoever. But unless they have a purpose, it's kind of like it's a hard path to kind of get into a space, and this ambiguity that I actually enjoy.
Yeah.
Can be a hindrance to a lot of people if they don't understand what they're doing first, and they just, because otherwise they're going to be like a ping pong ball all over the place, and they're going to burn up resources, and they're going to burn up effort, and it's going to burn up money. They're probably going to go out of business if they don't have that.
Yeah, and I think
Focus.
it's that you are a perfect case and others are a perfect case that ambiguity is actually a good thing for entrepreneurs, solopreneurs or teams, because that space means that you can leverage your experience, you can leverage your agency in order to make good on that ambiguous space, and you're kind of then a step ahead of the crowd as they are ping-ponging around, as you described. Do you have particular like habits? Are you like a mindset driven person? You mentioned purpose a lot, so I'm just curious, are there particular tenets of a mindset, or do you use meditation? Is there anything that helps like steer you or guide you through your day and through your decision making?
Well, that's evolved over time. If we go back to earlier days, it was still chaotic. It's chaotic in my mind. I thrive in chaos, which means a controlled chaos, but it's taken years to kind of develop that. Now, I have a little bit more purpose, a little bit more breathing room. From a meditation standpoint, one of the things, and I probably should do this more with my wife, is yoga. I really love and enjoy yoga, because it gives me that very, again, think of the mat of a yoga mat, almost like the piece of paper. That's my time, that's my space.
Yeah, presence
On that mat. So it gives me, it allows me to kind of quiet the mind, and kind of think about these things. My wife and I, this is why we're great partners, is because she's a very structured, has everything written down, and everything in order, and everything's has numbers and structure as her life. And I'm just the opposite. And she's been a business partner. So every business entity that we've had is, she's always a part of that. Typically, I call her the silent partner, but she's a helpful silent partner, not so silent at home.
Right.
And so it helps having, when you talk about a team, having a team of dissimilar thoughts, people that so you could balance. So you're not just in an echo chamber in your head, you go, this is a great idea.
And then the person next to you going, yeah, it is.
Yeah, that's a great idea. Then next
Yeah.
thing you know, you paint yourself in a corner. So, the 23 years of running SDV Solutions, there was some very definite inflection points along the way that's kind of crafted to where we are at.
Yeah, that was going to be my follow-up, which is you have your team, you have this mindset, you seem like you work well within the team, even with the fluidity or the dynamic nature of the environment. How do you help like shepherd them through points of ambiguity? Like you're going on this journey and something pops up. It's something environmental, it's something regulatory. How do you typically go about helping people in your team?
Um, the best way is to be calm when this ambiguity issue shows up, but also if you have a plan and be able to shepherd the team through these issues, regulatory lawsuits. There's all kinds of stuff that happens that every entrepreneur thinks it's all roses.
No, it's not.
That everything from day one to day, whenever you exit or whatever happens in between there's going to be no stress. There's going to be no changes. There's going to be no, canceled contracts. There's going to be no, I use lawsuits, things happen, things pop up. There's going to be, in the federal government world, there's change of administrations. There's, changes of priorities on budgets. So you have to be able to adapt, calmly see what's happening, and make that pivot. And actually, most importantly, it's okay to say, I don't know. I don't know right now. That, ego and entrepreneurship is sometimes synonymous. There's a lot of ego to start a business, to step out, check out to go do these things. So understanding how ego plays into entrepreneurship and understand that you could have some humility too, helps you make those hurdles over those ambiguous moments.
I love that, because one of our pillars, our other pillars beyond the conversation today, is about being self-directed, but it's not about like going alone, because you can't, to your earlier statement of being in an echo chamber and just being self-reliant. You have to be informed of the decisions that you make. So even though you are the decision maker, you might have to tap into others and resources and other people's experience. It's not something that can be going at alone for forever, right?
Correct.
Yeah. So, what advice, because I know that you have a couple of interns with us at William & Mary right now.
They're great.
What advice do you give a student, a veteran, or an entrepreneur who's looking to be more comfortable with ambiguity? Like, let's say we're sitting down, it's a typical classroom, or maybe it's an online class. Like, what advice would you give them?
Listen, patience. But probably the first two things I actually use this with our interns here at William & Mary, because they come in with a lot of book knowledge. So you have book knowledge, which is great. And that's where, academia comes in with a great book knowledge.
Yeah.
And if you can just create and run a company based upon book knowledge, then everybody would have their own company, because they could just follow the script and follow what's in the book and, set up their P&L and balance sheets and all this good stuff, and everything looks great and all the numbers are green,
Yeah.
So the first thing I said to them is, I want you to have this book knowledge, but I just listen in patience. This is a marathon, not a sprint. The field that we're working on right now is mental health and veterans. We got to get it right. We don't have to get it right now. We have to get it right. So if that is next week, next month, next year, then we're going to move towards that, as opposed to getting it right is more important than now. Now. And, the term of the FOMA, everybody's like, fear of missing out. I got to be the next new entrepreneur. I got to go get all the VC money. I got to, get the IPO by January, and that's just not how it works.
Well, let me ask a quick follow-up then, in terms of getting it right and the stakes that are at play and the problem that you need to solve.
Correct.
Because it's one thing to get it out there and like for it to be right, and then another thing to get it out there for feedback, like do some customer discovery, get it in your hand. So can you elaborate more on how do you get it right? How do you get it right for the people that you're looking to serve?
The first thing, again, go and look at my 4 pages, my 4 corners is veteran health, and specifically the project that we're working on, the product that we're working on right now is mental health, around a very tough subject. And to get it right is knowing what I don't know. I'm not a psychologist. That's the first thing I said. I need to get psychologist feedback. So one of the things I'm tapping in here at William Mary is the counseling center, the psychologists. We're meeting with them. Just what's the psyche around some mental health challenges? Psyche around mental health challenges specific to veterans. So incorporating knowledge and understanding of these subject matters from subject matter experts.
Yeah.
So identifying, first of all, what I'm not a subject matter expert on, and saying, okay, we need that initial feedback. Are we on the right path to do the right thing? Because again, being an echo chamber, it's like, oh, I think we should do X, Y, and Z. And it's probably going to be a function of that, but it might be A, B, and C plus X, Y, and Z or some form of that. I know because it's ambiguous, isn't it? I don't know these things. The data science that we're doing around some of these AI modelings, I know some. I'm not a data scientist. I'm not an AI modeler. I know conceptually how this stuff works. I conceptually know how I think this application should work properly. Right. So making sure we bring in the right mindsets around data science and the actual tech behind what we're doing. Purposeful tech, not just tech to do tech. Anybody can create an app. That nowadays you go out now and have ChatGPT create you an app.
Yeah, your own GPT.
Yeah, just. And then probably the most important thing is I have some very deep pool of veterans that have struggled with these topics, some of these topics, myself included. And going back to when I was discharged in 93, medically discharged, I lost a sense of identity then. And I didn't realize it then because, hindsight's a lot easier, that I challenged with mental health issues from that point forward because I thought my life was going to be this and it wasn't. Not because I didn't give it all, it's because I got sick. So bringing those voices in of the veteran and bringing that into a business and spending time with that to help make sure that we're on the right path, not just the path that Mike thinks, because that'd be the wrong path. So it's a collaborative effort in that sense. And that helps, again, whether it's data science or psychology or again, the veteran voice, bring that stuff together helps start to sharpen that focus on and remove some of that ambiguity into what the problem is and how to solve that problem. Not just coming at a problem with I got this tool, we're solving this problem without understanding how to get there.
Yeah. And then you're at that point. And then it's, how do you become contract ready? Or like, how do you, like from a business model perspective, then it's who are your customers, where are your channels? Then it's like that whole other piece. How do you market? How do you communicate? How do you make sure that the channels are the right place? That's going to be a whole nother piece to think about, but that's exciting though too.
Yeah. The beautiful part is I'm blessed with the ability to have freedom of movement, time, and money in this case. So one of the things that I looked at, business term is ROI. What's the ROI on this effort? I'm going to spend my time, money. What's the ROI? What's going to happen? And the first thing I put on the first page is one life. We want to save one life. That's my ROI on this project, is because if we could save one life, then that's valuable. That is important from a business standpoint.
Yeah.
This is important to me.
Yeah. So you've talked a lot about like the elements of the business from a research side, from a subject matter expert side, from tapping into your end users who are going to use the platform, but there's the business model side too.
Right.
Yeah. So how do you think about the channels and the ROI for your business?
Yeah, the first thing I did is when my blank piece of paper around purpose, the ROI was one, and if we could say one life, we're going to start there. So make sure our purpose is to save a life. That's our ROI. Now, how do we get there financially? How do we get there, with a business model? The typical, business model of, you got to run a P&L. You got to have, capital. There's capital. There's time capital. There's money capital. And how do you bring these pieces together with knowledge capital and get to that purpose? So test marketing, pre-marketing, pre-communication of what we're doing and get buy-in from the stakeholders.
Yeah, early adopters.
So that allows us to keep moving down, and they're going to validate what's happening.
Yeah, it's part of their value. Yeah.
Is making sure we're on the right track. And eventually, the first thing on our map, our technical roadmap, is to get to MVP, which is a minimum viable product. What does that look like? And we're going to put this in real life's hands. So before we even put that minimum viable product on there, we need to make sure that the customer experience is there, right? And make sure that we're not having false positives, because if we don't have the right algorithms or whatever we're doing and decision on the tools, then the integration with the clinicians and the end user is not going to be successful. And we're not going to save that life. Now, at the end of the day, if we save one life, we'll save 10, we'll save 100, we'll save, and the numbers, we have a roadmap on the back end. We know how much it's going to cost to build. We have that as the pipeline. We know how much we need from a physical dollar standpoint to build these tools out in the different stages.
Right. Yeah. So there's reciprocity for saving one life, because then that could be done. It can be done. And it's not like you're starting from scratch for the next person's life. You have the blueprint, you have everything in place to take advantage of. That's super cool. Looking back on your career through the lens of uncertainty, is there anything that has surprised you most, about yourself along the way?
Yeah, probably when I was at the lowest. So this is about 2012, 2013. I made a big mistake. I went after a contract that I should not have gone after. I got a $150 million contract. Ego took over. It's like, wow, look at this. I got this $150 million contract. And that about buried me. I wasn't ready for it. My ego thought I was ready for it, but the numbers, the balance sheet definitely said I wasn't ready. And some of the contract terms of the government changed, and we were a sole awardee of this $150 million contract, and it literally bankrupted me. I didn't file bankruptcy, but I went down. I had to terminate a bunch of employees I brought on for this contract. It was a low point. I thought I failed. And it was at that inflection point of failure is where I had to rely on faith and family to be able to come back out of that. And I'll never forget that feeling. Literally having Dominion Power turn off the electricity in my office because I couldn't pay the bill because the contract was all upside down. And getting through that adverse period, and it wasn't just like one day, it was like a year.
Gosh, yeah.
With pure grit and a lot of prayer, it changed me. It changed the business model. Instead of going after the home runs, I said, we're going to win this by doing singles. We're just going to hit the singles. We're just going to do. And so our whole structure of the business changed. It was still federal government, it's still IT, but instead of going after these big $100 million contracts, $50 million to $25 million contracts, we did $1,000, $10,000 contracts. And we changed, instead of having one leg on our stool, we had 10,000 legs on our stool. So one of them gets kicked out. But that whole period, I'll never forget, because it changed who I was, and it really pop that ego balloon a lot. And it allowed me, and I wasn't perfect, and I'm still not perfect, but allowed me over the course of the next 10 years to finally get to the point to where I was able to exit the company at significant value. So,
well, I think it's a good analogy of failing wisely. Like you mentioned, $150 million contract. Like that's a big bet. And it sounds like your model shifted to small bets, right? You have enough support to make these small bets. You have enough of them that you're playing this statistical game, knowing that you can make good on those small bets. That's good. That's a good way to operate, and not fail unwisely, I suppose.
Correct.
Yeah. Any final thought or encouragement for someone who is navigating a career change? They're navigating maybe the startup of a venture, or they're doing some succession planning and they have to think about who's going to take over a business. Any final thoughts or takeaways for the audience?
Yeah, embrace ambiguity, embrace your fear, understand it too. Understand where that fear is coming from, and get the proper resources and community around you to embrace that stuff. Because a lot of people say, "Oh, I don't have fear, that I'm strong." I mean, it's just it's okay to say, "I don't know." It's okay to say, "I don't know yet. I'll go find out." It's okay to say, "I'm afraid of something," whatever that is. So unless we address our fears in entrepreneurship, as entrepreneurs, we can't be successful. Because if we just bury it, then we're just going to proceed forward and, in this embrace ambiguity too.
Yeah.
Because that is a valuable trait. Ambiguity doesn't show up on a balance sheet, does it? There's not a line, balance sheet is black and white numbers,
Yeah.
Hopefully some of them are green. So the successful entrepreneurs can embrace ambiguity, embrace their fears, because there's fear, and those two things kind of reside, and how to push fear aside and effectively move through that ambiguity to success.
Yeah.
Whatever that is.
Yeah. I think that's a great takeaway. I think that there's something that you said about burying your fear or burying the indecisiveness or whatever that is. And it's almost like burying something, but it's always going to be there. Right.
Yes.
Like it's at the surface level, or it may come back like a zombie, right? Where it's going to harm you in time. So it's better to embrace and.
Yeah. So the mental health of actually entrepreneurship is important.
Yeah. It's huge. It's huge. Well, Mike, you rock. Thank you again for being a guest on today's episode of Tolerance for Ambiguity. I think your journey is a super powerful one, from your military service to your venture, your entrepreneurial journey as it continues on. I think it means a lot to how you show up and create impact. And I think I'm really hopeful for your venture now and the lasting impact that it's going to create.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you,
absolutely. To our listeners, tolerance for ambiguity doesn't mean chaos. It means that choosing to learn, build, and adapt, much like the episode alluded to today, when certainty isn't an option, and often isn't. If you're building something new, remember the best plan isn't always visible at first, and you can let it emerge through thoughtful action. So to learn more about Mike's work, you can visit NGZ.ai or find him on LinkedIn.
Okay.
We've included links in the episode description. So thanks for tuning in. Until next time, keep thinking boldly and don't be afraid to step into the unknown. Thanks, Mike.
Cool.
All
right.
How was it?
It was fun.
Cool. Thanks, man.
Speak from the heart. It's easy.
Yeah.